Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Tanya Peluso, and this is Dr. Barry Green.
Hello.
And we are here to share with you the 5 secrets to effectively leading groups that we think that every new generation leader should know. And Barry and I are in a goofy mood right now. Which is definitely one of the things about being a leader is you don't always have to take it seriously. The more fun you're having, the more fun your participants will be having. So basically, to give you a little bit of background on who we are, if you haven't met us already, I'll start and introduce myself as the CEO of Tribal Truth. And so Tribal Truth has been around since 2010, creating groups of women coming together to empower each other. And we've been all over the world, and currently what we're doing is we're going a little bit deeper. So we started kind of as this membership networking group for women, and we've been going deeper and deeper. And so now what Tribal Truth is offering is a retreat to Peru that Barry and I will be co-leading in September. We'll tell you about that a little bit later on the call. As well as circles where women could come together for 12 weeks and connect with one another and go really deep into both what it means to be a woman as well as feminine leadership. I met Barry about a little over a year ago, June 2013, and went through a really powerful process, a healing process for myself. And it absolutely changed my life. It was kind of that last missing piece that I needed to really embody my leadership and to find the truth that I had been seeking all my life. So I kind of got off of the truth train, the truth-seeking train, and really arrived within myself. So I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell everyone who you are.
Hi out there. I'm Barry Green. I've got a pretty lengthy history in the alternative, holistic, / New Age, that whole category of exploring and discovering the truth within. So I started this professionally about, well, actually 40 years ago. This is the 40th anniversary. I dropped out in the 70s and spent a number of years after being very successful in corporate, not really finding that answered the fulfillment of life question. Is this success? Is this happiness? Is this joy? Well, it wasn't. I did it and got it, and it didn't do it. So I had the chance to discover some different spiritual paths and self-development programs, and I just immersed. I dropped out. I decided that I just needed to work on myself. I found what resonated, and spent about 5 years doing that. And during that period of time, I was introduced to a method that was called the Fisher-Hoffman method at the time, and it was famous for what the other stuff couldn't do, what the other stuff couldn't complete, what you just couldn't really get. That missing piece that Tanya was talking about, that work was said to do that. I liked that selling point. That was all I needed to hear, because I felt like even though I had done years of stuff and lived in ashrams and did an enormous amount of practices and Tai Chis and yogas and Buddhism and Taoism and on and on and on, still wasn't complete, and I did that and I was blown away. And so I asked the people who trained me if I could become a trainer, if they'd teach me, and they did. They passed it on to me in the same way that Tanya wanted me to pass on what I had learned, and I did that with her. So sort of describing a lineage here, but that was my start, and I ended up just being asked by people to work with them, to teach them, on and on and on, and then one thing led to another, and opportunities provided themselves, and by 77 I had the beginnings of what became a very large school called IPSB, the Institute of Psychostructural Balancing, that expanded into 3 locations, and it became sort of not what I wanted to do, run schools. I love to teach and share, so I eventually sold it off, and then went even further, developed what was called Body Mind College, and that was about 22 years. It went from '88 to 2010. The economy and new owners didn't quite match together, and so it's no longer with us. But School for the New Generation Leader is. So really what I feel like I bring to the table is tons of experience, tons. It's just been what's been graced, what's been given me in this lifetime. I didn't choose it. I didn't imagine that it would ever happen. I never thought I would end up here. So I've spent a lot of time healing my own self. It hasn't stopped. I just came back from Arizona in a level 2 course of tremor release work, which is happening as part of the program, and a whole new level of it. So I'm excited. Even Tanya hasn't seen that. So anyway, I'm tremendously excited about Peru. If we go back to Peru, it won't be for a while.
Long time.
So this is a chance to go to really a sacred valley, a retreat in nature that's just so breathtaking. I mean, I don't know if there's another word. It's just incredibly breathtaking. To be immersed in a process, to be able to have the time to finish it, and to be able to heal what keeps us from our potential. And we know that people out there that are watching this are people that are leaders in one way or another, whatever that means. You know, you might be leading healing work. You might be thinking about leading healing work. You might be a leader in business. You might be an entrepreneurial leader. Whatever that leadership is, we know beyond a question of a doubt that you are the person that's leading it, and it's you that makes the difference. So whatever in you is unresolved, is an issue, a blockage, an inhibition, a challenge, that is what this work is for, to get to that deepest level. Really, truly, there is nothing deeper than core learning, and that's what we go to. We'll talk about that later. But today we want to talk about, if you're that person and you're already in process of leading people, then we want to talk about some of the things that are key and critical to be able to really be effective. Between the two of us, we have too many years of experience to even want to tell you. So, a lot. And,
a lot.
And that's really, I believe, the strong point of what we offer, besides the fact that certainly Tanya is nonstop in her commitment and her devotion to healing herself, because it just makes life richer, whichever the way it sabotages our life. And I guess I'm just a junkie. I'm not going to stop until it's done, because I just want to have the fullness of life. And at this ripe age that I'm at, I have a 7-year-old, so I'm committed to being a full-on father for a long time. So I want to be really there.
Many more years.
For my son and all the people that make me a father figure. So anyway, welcome to 5.
So today we're going to be talking about the 5 secrets to leading effectively, and where we came up with this and why we decided to lead this today is our last retreat that we led. We are, as Barry mentioned, the School for the New Generation Leader. We have started as a way for people to come and get this healing, to go through this process that Barry and I have both gone through that made such a drastic change in both of our lives, for leaders to go through that experience. And what I always like to say, the new generation leader is someone who draws their line in the sand and says, I want to discover the truth. Like, what's the truth of who I am? It's that remembrance. And so part of that is going back into the generations and saying, you know what, I don't really want what I learned, these negative learnings and these limited beliefs that I learned from my past generations. I want to clear those, and I want to create a world that really works for the next 7 generations. That's the context of the new generation leader. And if you're a leader, you know, the way that you can be most effective in helping people is by leading groups. And so there's some magic, there's some secret sauce that we both found to effectively being able to bring a group together, to be able to manage and maintain that group, and to bring that group through a transformational process. So during our last retreat, just a few weeks ago, we did this section with the group about leadership and about holding space, and what it looks like to effectively lead the group, and what are we doing behind the scenes for them. And we got some really great feedback, and so we thought, hey, this is some great content and some great knowledge that we like to share, because really what this comes down to is we want to empower more leaders to be real and authentic and in that truth. We don't want these leaders who are lying and blaming. That doesn't work anymore. It's a new paradigm that we're wanting to create with the new generation leader. So we're going to just dive right in, and I would love for Barry to, he's actually demonstrating right now our first secret, which is presence. And so Barry, you want to share the aspects of embodying presence as a leader?
So the idea of being present to a group is that if you've ever had a situation where somebody's talking to you, and you're listening to them, and you're listening to them, and you're listening to them, well, possibly you're taking in what they're saying, but you could also be like, watching what's going on around you, or being distracted from something on the outside, or you could literally not even really hardly be there. You could be thinking about, oh, I hope they get, please stop talking. I've got something to do. I don't want to be rude. I don't want to, just tell you I've had enough. I'll call you back. So all kinds of mental stuff can be going on. Or you could have a conversation where you call up someone and you wanted to tell them something, but they won't stop talking. Right? So you can't get your 2 cents in. So in the terms of being with the group, if you're going to connect to the group, there has to be stillness and quietness to really receive that, to be able to get not only what they're saying, but to be able to get the humanness, the totality of what it is that they're sharing with you, because so much isn't just the words, so much is the movement, so much is the what shall we call it, the vibration, the feeling, actually the genuine or congruency of what it is. We all know that. We all know that when someone comes in and they feel like there's something that's not being said, you don't have to be an expert to figure that out. You feel it. It's just human nature to be able to do that. But in a group setting, you've got a lot of people to have to make that connection to. So to be able to spread yourself, to be able to expand yourself, there has to be simply that sense of presence. You could call it stillness, you could call it quietness. If your body is agitated and you're doing all these things, then there's something behind that. There's something that's making your nervous system have some, let's call it irritation. We could psychologically call it anxiety. So a restlessness and not being able to be in the moment. But once that can settle and just be there, then it's like we're a vessel. And we're a vessel that takes it in, and instead of having to be agitated and thinking about it, what does that mean? And what do I tell this person? And all this kind of really mental chatter and agitation that doesn't give us any answers. It just really cuts us off from the person in our own awareness. Instead of having that, we can sit back and we can literally trust that we are connected and that we are able to have this sense of an inner knowing. You got to be a group leader for some reason. There was something that inside you knew that you loved to do this, that you wanted to do this. You probably got validation and confirmation from other people. Wow, you did a great job, and you were so whatever it was. They gave you a list of these qualities, but it simply reinforced that, like, yes, that's what I want to do, and I do connect to people, and I do get what people are telling me. Well, again, that sense of presence, as we know it, is that ability to receive. And of course, you can't be receiving when the system isn't receptive and open, basically still and quiet. So that presence is being able to, in a sense, just what we've been talking about. If, if there's too much inside of you that's getting affected or triggered, then presence is nearly impossible.
So what I wanted to add was, in Peru, this is one of the reasons why we're going down to Peru to do our training, is because you get to unplug and allow yourself to be present. And so you get that taste of what it looks like to really be present and to be still. A lot of what prevents us from being present is an inner conflict. And this is one of the things that I personally worked on with Barry so much, was just this battle that was going on inside of myself between my truth and my spirit, and my ego. And I was being torn between what I had learned and the truth of who I was. What I had learned from mom and dad, what I had learned from society, that it didn't quite line up, right? So that I didn't feel in alignment. So I was constantly agitated. I was constantly upset and frustrated. And I would have to, try to calm that down. But no matter how many hours of meditation I did, I wasn't cleared of this stuff. It wasn't until I actually cleared what this stuff was that was agitating me that I can then be fully present. And this was the number one thing that people would say to me is, Tanya, you're not present. My mom would say it, my brother would say it, my lover would say, Tanya, you're not present. I don't feel like you're available. And that's been a huge thing, as I'm actually able to slow down and be present and be so much more effective in a group because I'm present. And so that's one of the biggest things that we really want to have people walk away with from our trainings, is that is the key. Like, that is the essence to leadership, is your presence and how people feel you, and they feel good around you, and they feel like they can trust you, right?
Yeah. And so part of that, Tanya, gets to be that, like, we're all human, but we don't accept ourselves most of the time. We've got so much of this garbage that we've packed up and carried along and dragged with us, and had just stink up the situation, so to speak. And to get rid of that garbage allows something that's really so necessary, which is acceptance. So we both certainly acknowledge that we make mistakes. We're not always absolutely correct or accurate, but it's not really significant to be a leader. What's significant is to be able to have that sense of, okay, I agree, I accept that, I take accountability for that, and to be a role model for that. Be a role model for being human, not perfect, not authoritarian. And this is what creates that sense of humanness presence. We could teach you how to be really a facade presence. Hi there, my name is Barry Green. Nice to meet you. Welcome to our training. Today we're going to get you really rocking. I mean, we could do this kind of hard sell and motivator, and that's actually not who either one of us are. We've got that part in us at some times, but that's not the totality of who we are. That's not the humanness of who we are. All of us probably have that motivator, that inspirer in there, but there's so much more. And all of us have what shall we call it, the dark side. Here comes the force. The dark side. We've got the place where the light doesn't shine. And that's what we're a work in progress for. Maybe we'll finish by the time that we leave this body. Maybe we won't. But when we can truly love and accept that, the world has changed. And as every one of us know, one of the biggest deals in most everyone's life is that inner battle, just like you talked about, knowing that, no, they want me to be more present. I'm trying to be more present. You can't keep doing that battle. It just trains you. It creates all kind of body issues, immune issues, digestive issues, emotional issues, reactivity, on and on and on. So presence.
So this comes to number 2, which we've already kind of started diving into, which is authenticity. Being able to be yourself, not actually being the leader who's putting up a facade. I had a big breakthrough with this when I was leading about 5 different tribe leaders around the world back in 2012. And I came onto one of our leadership calls and just collapsed. And I started crying. And I was like, I don't know if I could run this call. I'm just a mess right now. And I really, like, this is just kind of where I'm at. And all the women were like, oh my God, we feel so connected. Tanya's a human. And that was a turning point for me. And that's when my whole leadership style shifted from being very structured and masculine and gotta have everything together and make sure that everyone feels like Tanya's got it handled, to bringing my humanness in and allowing myself to be authentic with exactly where I'm at. And when you can be real, people want to follow real people. This is where, again, that trust piece comes in of you know when someone's being inauthentic and they're putting up the fake smile and you just don't feel connected to them. Yeah, they might be really good inspirational speaker, but in the long run, that just won't last. It's not sustainable. As a leader, having people follow you. People want to be around someone who they feel is real.
Yeah. And this is why when we started the Google Hangout, both of us are being goofy, and it's not like we're ashamed of that. You know, that's not professional. Oh my God, did they see that, Tanya? We are who we are. Tanya is a very powerful woman, and she's a strong woman, and she's an emotional woman. Nothing unusual
Very
about
emotional.
that. Nothing unusual about that. And I am a man, have those capabilities to be very sensitive and emotional, and I'm also a man, and I don't know if pride is the right word, but I own. Well, it is a form of pride. I'm a man. I'm proud to be a man. That's who I am. I was born a man. I've loved to be in a male body and love to feel that energy of a male. So in the training, you get to have this sense of seeing that, of seeing the, well, Barry's the, oh, okay, this is time, let's do this. And then at the same time, I'm laughing and I'm goofing and I'm like a kid and I'm very emotionally sensitive and empathetic to people. But that's just where it is and when it is. It's not having to be that way. So we're not trying to be something. And that's really what we're talking about. Having the ability to give up the effort and the struggle and to be lost in who the hell am I? And should I be strong now? Oh, maybe I should be. Oh, hi, Tanya. You're so sweet and loving. Being ourselves.
One of the things that we do to clear and to empower people is through self-esteem. And a lot of leaders put on the mask of self-esteem, where you're overly confident.
Yeah, like a grandiosity.
Yeah, grandiose, and that they're pretending, again, that I've got it all together, covering up the fact that they feel underneath that they're not good enough, or that they might be a fraud and they don't want anyone to figure out. So this is a huge piece of the work that we do, is clearing that so that you are congruent, you are authentic, there is nothing to hide, and you're able to express yourself exactly how you're feeling in that moment. To feel like, oh my God, I can be fully self-expressed, I can be goofy, I can just allow all parts of myself to shine, versus trying to hide the parts that you feel like people shouldn't know, right? So that's one of the pieces. The other piece I want to share about authenticity is that every teacher, every leader knows, effective and good leaders know that they are still a student. So one thing that I think is really important around authenticity is always knowing that there's something for you to learn as the leader. And there's vulnerability in that, right? That's part of the authenticity, is being able to be vulnerable and say, you know what, I don't have all the answers. The more evolved we become, the more that we realize we don't know everything. We barely know anything. And so I think, good leaders, effective leaders, will admit when they're wrong, will be students, will be learning from their students just as much as they're teaching, and that they're that perpetual learner.
Yeah, that I just talked about going to this training recently for
Oh yeah,
the method that I just become certified in, and I'm going into level 2 process certification. It was a training where I was probably the oldest person there. I undoubtedly had the most experience, beyond any question. Even the leader, who had a great deal of experience, I had 15 more years than they did, and he was doing stuff that I was like, it would be so good if I could show you how to do this easier, and et cetera, et cetera. He was doing hands-on body work and some things, and it was like, okay, just let it go. And then I was getting feedback, and part of me is like, I don't really feel it. It doesn't really resonate. It doesn't really connect. And then there was that part that was like, okay, let go, and know that there's always something there. These are people's perceptions, and they're valid. They're valid. They have something behind them. So it really often gets down to trust. And it's a trust, to me, that's bigger than the person, but it's a trust in the process of life. Why did I end up with this training? Why did I end up with this method? There was something I wanted to technique learn. There was something for me personally that was going to come from it. So that ability to have, I think it's like, you could say humility and
yeah. Yes.
And when Tanya was talking about people that, you don't find the humility. You find more of what's the superiority or the authoritarian or these things. But unfortunately, what we see and what we know is that consequences come from that. And in leadership, they can be to the point of fatal. You might remember in Sedona, a couple of years back or so, there were 3 people killed, 2 people killed. There was a sweat lodge process, and this man who was part, I think, of the secret video and all that, or connected to it, and Oprah, and all these credentials. He was leading this, and 3 people got killed in a sweat lodge ceremony. In the 40 years that I've been around and done sweat lodges, I've never heard of anybody being hurt, other than they're a little exhausted from the sweat or whatever, just you assume, but being killed, this is so disconnected. And so our hearts go out to the people because of this lack of being able to be really genuine and really accountable.
The third piece is holding the space, and particularly knowing your group, knowing your audience. So I'll just share a little bit on this piece, and then Barry can share as well. For me, I'm always really conscious when I'm with a group of who is in the group, who am I speaking to, where are these people at? The last thing I want to do is just start preaching and going off on some tangent that's not relevant to what people are experiencing right there in the moment. So one of the things that I personally like to do, here's one of my tricks here, or my secrets, is checking in with the group and finding out energetically where they're at. And I personally like to, thank you, Train. I personally like to pay attention to the energy of what's the energy in the room. So a big piece is listening and watching. Again, this has to go with the more present I am, the more that I can pick up on subtle clues. Are people falling asleep? Are they checking out? Are they confronted by something, right? I have to constantly be checking in with the energy of the group, and sometimes I have to ask. It's okay to be able to ask, hey, where are you guys at? How are you feeling? Having questions throughout the time of being able to get people to be responding versus me just talking and being a talking head. Talking heads, unless you're super dynamic, you can lose people really, really quickly.
Yeah, I this ditto, being able to watch the body language, being able to sense that they're present, being able to see when there's distraction energy, and usually that's pretty obvious. And it's, at least in the American culture, and I'm laughing because I'm going to tell you a short story that really was a learning curve for me of a big one. In the American culture, people are pretty much going to demonstrate that. They're going to show you by body language what's going on for them. And the other point that Tanya made is so significant. I'm infamous for being able to go a little bit too long with talking. So
I had to cut him off.
So she either cuts me off, or I just keep, I get that consciousness of like, oh, I've been talking for a while, and even though the physiology looks like maybe it's still there, I'll ask the question, or I'll make the statement. I'm realizing that I've been going on for a while. Is this working for you? If you've had enough, please let me know. And so, and I do that to empower them and to let them know it is okay to say, I'm fine with what we've got. And of course, oftentimes people won't do that to be polite, but as the training goes on, then they get the power to say, yeah, let's move on. Good, thank you so much. But the story I want to tell is really just, it just tickles me every time. It was 1994. I was invited to be one of two lead speakers at the Australian Bodywork Conference for New Zealand and Australia. It was an annual event. And there was about 200 people there. And I was giving a talk on body psychology, the connection between the body-mind. And so the Australian and New Zealand community is, as you may know, very much from the English tradition, stiff upper lip. And so there were people there, and they had their notebooks, and they were listening quite intently. But the interesting thing was they had no expression whatsoever. It was just totally stiff upper lip British. So I'm going on, and I'm trying to use some devices. I'm trying to make jokes, so maybe they'll show me some sign they're breathing, that there's a laughter or some emotion. That didn't work. And and then, is this working for you? No, they're nodding their head. Still no expression, right? So it's like I'm going, that was a nice, polite nod. So anyway, I had a couple of workshops that I was going to be doing after the lecture, and I had this feeling go on based on my experience with basically Western American culture. I wasn't going to have much turnout in my workshops. It just didn't look like it was working, right? And so it just happened that after my lecture was tea and crumpet time. So there was a break. And I had a textbook that I had written at the time, and I told them, if you're interested, I'm saying this to myself like, not going to sell many textbooks either, right? Because there's just no response. So I'm saying, I've got some textbooks. If you're interested, come up to the front table. So I'm figuring, well, it'll be a lonely day at the table. So we have a break, and literally, it was like a feeding frenzy. They attacked the table, and they would give me one, and they're reaching over, and they've got a $20 bill in their hand, and the people that were helping me are like trying to get the books and the money, and it was just hilarious. And then, of course, afterwards, they're like, oh, Dr. Green, I wish I had studied with you. I've been wanting to get this information. This was the most significant thing I've heard about what you talked about. And I'm thinking, you might want to show that, to the speaker. But anyway, it was quite insightful that for the most part, your audience will clearly demonstrate that they're present, that they're connected, but they may not. So check in with your audience. Really have that I call it a feedback loop. Really have that loop to know that they're there with you, especially if you're having something that's telling you a question, and you may be right, you may not, as I just demonstrated.
Yeah, feedback is so important. Sometimes we're afraid to ask for the feedback either after a session or after a program because we don't want the negative. But it's the best thing that you can do is during when you're leading a group to be getting that feedback, and then afterwards so that you can continue to improve and to continue to make it better for that group if you're leading that group ongoingly, after each session to get that feedback. What did you learn? What did you take away? So the fourth one, and you're definitely going to want to stay with us because number 5 is our best secret. But number 4.
Good sales pitch, Tanya.
Number 4 is inspiration. And one thing I'll say on this, and then I'll let Barry share, is what I've learned is if I can keep looking and keep listening for the highest, if I can listen for the greatness and speak into the potential of people, it can be so inspirational for the audience, for the group. Because a lot of times we don't believe in ourselves and we need someone to reflect our greatness to us. That is what I found my job as a leader to be, is I am there to have people see the greatness in themselves that they can't quite see yet, that the veil has covered, they forgot who they are, and I am reminding them, and so that they can remember the truth that we are freaking miraculous as human beings. Each and every one of us has unique gifts. We are all special, and sometimes we just need that little reminder.
Tanya, it was for me, I couldn't help having the quality of how I work with people because it was my journey, it was my experience, and it's just simply passing that on. I feel like I'm a part of a chain that happened. I was so much seeking my own truth and my own inner connection and spiritual questions of like, what is life and is there a God and blah 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 and all that kind of stuff just for years, and then dropping out, I found it, and I found incredible teachers, legendary teachers, and the same thing would be said over and over again, and it always was, you are the truth, you are that which created you. All of these kinds of great spiritual truths, and yet they'd be said in the context of very human process, and you are that just as you are. You are that work in progress. You are that divine that's manifesting in this unique being, and you are that divine that's manifesting in the process of becoming fully that divine, without anything in the way, the clearing, the cleansing process. So for me, it was like there was really no other path than the path to that truth, to that reality that is human reality, that is reality of the life we live. So I want to just reiterate and put a giant check mark and a gold star and all those kinds of things to that idea. People all want the basics. I mean, the basics are what we really are here for, and their love. Their love, their peace, their joy, their spirit. We talk of spirituality. The word spirit comes to me. My teachers were like playful as hell. I mean, they were goofs. They were older when I met them, but they'd have races in their golf carts and run other people that were in the other golf cart off the track and just goof around because there was so much life in them, because they were fully alive, and that's spirited, like an animal that's spirited. You meet someone like that and it's attractive, it's magnetic, because they're really alive. What are they alive with? With the spirit that runs through us. And so in so many ways, the way of, like we talked about in the beginning, just being yourself, being that one that speaks their truth, that stands in their truth, that's alive in their truth, that's dynamic in their truth, and also quiet and still in their truth. The quietness and the stillness, what I've found is the way that we reconnect. That there's so much going on. Here you are looking at us on technology. I've got some of the most sophisticated technology in my pocket called a cell phone that's ever existed on the planet. And
smartphone.
I'm sorry, forgive me. And it's going to get smarter. It's going to go on my wrist and do all kinds of things eventually, and probably underneath my skin in another 20 years, and who knows where it'll go. But all of this is a reflection of the potency and the power of how we can be more connected to life and more vital and alive. And yet, we don't need the technology, and the technology can also distract us. So what I'm saying is, everything really gets down to the basics. And that basics is that enthusiasm, that inspiration, that ability to just feel that this person is love, joy, peace, happiness, and saying, you are too. So let's get it out. Let's have it come back to you. That's your truth. The leader to me is one that brings that out of someone and really does it with love and care and all the qualities that they want to be a role model for the other person for.
So that brings us to our final secret, number 5. So we need a drum roll. And that is, don't take no shit. And I'm going to let Barry lead this one.
So, you can see where the spirit and the lightheartedness and the fun comes in. Because, of course, we could have made another title for that would have been more politically correct, socially polite, et cetera, but most of us are going to be like, yeah, don't take any shit, right? And that's just the human process. So what does that really mean? That means don't settle. Don't settle. Don't settle for less than who you are. Don't settle for less than what your heart wants. Don't settle for less than what you really know is possible for you. If you're someone out there that's hurting emotionally, don't settle for that. Don't settle for less than love. Love of yourself, real love from others. If you're someone out there who's struggling financially, don't settle for that. Don't settle for feeling like you can't contribute. Don't settle for feeling like life isn't fair. Don't settle for feeling like life's not there for you. Don't take any of that shit, whatever it is. The truth is the truth. It can't be destroyed. It can't be created. It's universal. It's eternal. Life works. Life works. And what we know about life, what we know from the ancients, what we know from the modern, what we know from nanotechnology down to micro and below, life works. Not only does it work, but it's harmonious, it's beneficial, and it is abundant. It's abundant. So abundance is there for us. It's always been there for us. Don't take any shit. Which to start out with means generational stuff that somebody did what? Put on you. It's not yours. It's not who you are. You don't have to live with that. And when you work with other people, once you've been able to do that, then of course, they are inspired, they are encouraged, they are motivated. They see that, like the stories that both of us tell, both of us have nothing special that really is there to share. I mean, you know, we both have hardships from our beginnings. We both had situations in which we didn't really get love. We didn't really get cared for in functional ways. Our parents tried their best, and I'm sure that your parents tried their best under the conditions and under what had been passed on to them. But usually that was far from what was functional and what was true. So we ended up with actually generations of shit. Don't take any shit. Don't take any shit when you're working with your group, with whomever it is that you're working as a leader with. Don't allow a person to see themselves and to live their life as less than the truth, you know. And of course, we look for the art form in that. We look for the art form in that, because it's real easy just to smash someone. You know, what the hell are you doing with your life? Come on, get it together. Let's see you do something. I mean, anybody can do that. Anybody can just, you know, try and give you the whack on the bat, whack on the butt. But the art form is, maybe there's a time for a little bit of a nudge or a whack, whatever, and then maybe there's a time to just hold a hand and say, come on, let's go together.
Yeah, with compassion.
The heart that ability to know when and how.
I call it compassionate rigor. It's, it's like this, you got both. How do you both hold that compassion and also that rigor? And it is an art form.
It's an art form. And of course, art is usually learned more than any other way from other artists, because you get inspired, you see other artwork, you actually watch other artists do their art, yeah. and you just get a sense of how they flow, and the quality of beingness you can feel from them, and you talk to them, and you hear things that you wouldn't be able to get in a book. It's not science of it, so to speak.
And you know what? One thing I found is, as a leader, the only way I'm going to work with a coach or work with another facilitator is if I know that they're going to hold me accountable and they're not going to take my shit. So I think that's a big thing, is we have to remember that we want people to hold us accountable. And we want someone who's going to hold us to our highest and to our greatness, right? And so that's really what Barry and I are offering through our program by going down to Peru with us, is that we are not going to take your shit. We are going to, with compassionate rigor, really hold you to be your truth and to step into that new generation leader, to be that person who you know yourself to be, and so that you can remember the truth of who you are. It's an amazing setting that we're going to. It's an epic pilgrimage that everyone should go on at least once in a lifetime. And if you're going to go down there to the sacred country, the sacred space, and go see, these ancient ruins of Machu Picchu, you might as well go and do the deepest healing work that you can on yourself. And, and come back with not only this, oh my God, I went to Machu Picchu, but oh my God, I had this transformational experience where I got to really find the truth of who I am.
Yeah. And we've been able to make the training be what I consider on the marketplace very reasonable for you. And there's still the early bird discount, and it'll save you a little bit of money. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, maybe, this is a once-in-a-lifetime kind of process that you want to do. This work that we're doing is known to be the work that you want to do once. It goes down to the very bottom. It goes down to the very core. You do it once in your life, and then you move on with your life. And from that point on, yes, there'll still be things that will come up, but that deep cleansing has already happened, and when they come up, it's going to be a whole different quality of how you work with them, and how it simply moves out without really going to your core and just shaking down at the foundation. So if we can help you in any way and support you in any way to make this happen, we're both here, we're both available, we'd both love to hear from you. If there's any other question that you have or anything that you want to get together with us and talk about or share, we'd love to hear from you. We're basically here to support people and help empower you and empower those that you serve.
So Peru is September 19th through the 28th. You can find out that information and apply at tribal-truth.com/retreats. You could also contact us at info@tribal-truth.com. And we'll see you next time on our next Google Hangout or down in Peru. Take care.
Thank you so much. Bye.